Good evening. I'd like to call the May 5th monthly Board of Education meeting to order. Ms. Meeker, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Boucher.
Here.
Ms. Hastings.
Here.
Ms. Higgins.
Here.
Mr. Richards.
Here.
Ms. Robinson.
Here.
Ms. Sadowski.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
I am here. Ms. Campbell is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Campbell had a unexpected work thing. Next item is approval of the agenda. I will take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Robinson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Boucher. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is approval of the consent agenda, which includes the regular monthly board meeting minutes from April 7th, the Finance Committee from April 14th, City and Community Relations from April 16th, Executive Committee from April 21st, and Instructional Committee from April 21st.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second? Moved by Mr. Richards, second by Ms. Robinson. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. With that, I would like to welcome our guests from Abbot-Downing School. The Superintendent, would you like to do the introduction?
I'm just going to pass the baton very quickly to Mr. Blinn. He's going to do introductions, and we welcome our students as always.
Thank you for having us tonight. We're really excited to be here. We have a project that we want to share with you that's been kind of in the making. I think we've thought about it for probably a year and a half now. And I'm going to have, I have Mrs. Ulacco with me, who's our digital learning specialist. And then I have these fine three fifth grade students. We have Jillian, Amelia's in the middle, and we have Maddie. So you're going to see them featured in the majority of this. Mrs. Ulacco and I just wanted to take a couple minutes to give you some background of how we ended up at this point. This is our theme for our school spotlight tonight. So this has been something that's really big for us at Abbot-Downing over the course of the last several years, where we really try to get students more involved in our school. So with that being said, I'm going to pass the microphone down to Mrs. Ulacco, she has some highlights on the next slide that she wants to talk about.
Van, would you mind sharing your microphone so that we have two? And I just want to say to the parents or grandparents who are here, you are welcome to come up along the sides and take pictures if you'd like to do that.
Awesome.
If they'll allow you.
If they'll, you'll have to talk to them about where you're allowed to post it.
Mom, stop it.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight. I first wanted to start by thanking the Concord Trust Grant. As Mr. Blinn said, we've been talking about my idea for probably a little close to a year and a half. And in the winter of 2024, I applied to the Concord Trust Grant to create a student-led news program. And it was accepted, and we're here tonight to show you the platform that we created that we call Mustang TV. I also want to give a token of appreciation to Josh at CCTV. He has been a wealth of knowledge, and he's always happy to share what he knows. He provides us with encouragement, and I rely on him for some advice as well. Students who participate in Mustang TV build real-world skills. They have to be responsible. They have to manage their time. They communicate. They collaborate. It's a lot to ask of them to be on Mustang TV. We record one episode a week. We work on the script together, every single part of it from the beginning to the end, and they really put the touch on all of it. Mustang TV is an inclusive environment. It's truly for everyone. There's a role for every single student in fifth grade. You can choose to be in front of the camera, behind the camera, so students can really find what they enjoy. We have some students who just want to edit, so they are knee-deep in editing film, and then we have some who prefer to go out and interview and kind of be all around campus to do the reporter role. Mustang TV connects our community. We are preschool through fifth grade, and we storytell on Mustang TV. We celebrate on Mustang TV. We learn on Mustang TV. As the digital learning specialist, we talk about a digital wellness tip every week, and our reading specialist contributes a word of the week every week. So we have a lot going on. And lastly, as you may know, we have some 3D printers at Abbot-Downing, and not just teaching 3D printing. I don't just teach 3D printing, but I've found real-life applications to use with the students on Mustang TV. So we have our microphones, and we 3D printed interviewer mics, so they slide right in, and the students walk around and interview with them. And then we decided to make kind of stands that you have in front of you, so they just stand up. And I when the students go around with the handheld mics, one of the first things they usually say is, "Did you 3D print that?" So 3D printing is a buzz too, so we get to celebrate other things in our learning in the Media Tech room. So that brings us to the next slide, which is just a short 1-minute clip of our, today is week 12, so believe it or not, we've done 12 consecutive weeks of Mustang TV, and this is just a 1-minute clip of today's news, and just some background info. We celebrate Mrs. Martin's birthday in here, and she is our administrative assistant, so she is the smiling face that everybody knows at Abbot-Downing.
Thank you for watching our 12th episode of Mustang TV. My name is Juliana.
And my name is Maddie, reporting to you from our ADS News Studio.
It's officially May.
We want to give a huge birthday shout out to
Miss Martin! Now we go to Riley, who's reporting live from the cafeteria at ADS.
Thank you, Juliana. Hi, everyone. This is Riley reporting live from the cafeteria. We want to remind everyone to clean up our messes on the ground in the caf. When we are at lunchtime, please make sure there's no trash on the ground.
So that's just a clip, and then after that, there's 2 or 3 minutes more of our scripted news that we write together on Mondays and Tuesdays. And that leads us to our next part. So we created a special edition episode just for tonight.
Hear what? Did you hear?
Mustang TV is at the board meeting!
Dude, it's so good.
Hello, Board of Education. Welcome to your very own edition of Mustang TV.
Today we're talking all about student voice, leadership, and engagement at Abbot-Downing School.
From classroom to classroom, the playground, and even the school board, students at our school are using their voices to lead, share ideas, and make a real difference every day. Let's start with buddy classrooms, where older and younger students work together on projects, read books, and build friendships. It's all about learning with each other. We love celebrating our SEL themes with our buddy classrooms. Our awesome third graders even created a skit for Mustang TV so the whole school could enjoy it.
Just a peacock, not to be proud. Don't tell the rainbow, not to come out. A river to river, a star to star. Everyone's taken, just like you are. I'm just gonna be me. Who else would I be?
And how about Playworks mentors? These mentors are 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students that are invited to help younger classes play games, solve conflicts, and show what teamwork looks like.
Peer coaches are one of my favorite things about Playworks, as it allows younger grades to have some fun interaction with older kids. Favorite games outside include partner tag, switch, and night at the museum. These games can all be played outside without any materials, and anyone can play. Back to you at the ADS News Studio.
Our student union gives 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders a chance to speak up, plan events, and share ideas to make the school better for everyone. That's student voice in action.
Hi, my name is Hartley. And my name is Jackson. We're only a few months away from being 5th graders at ADS.
Being on student union has taught me that my voice matters. Last year when I was in art class, I asked myself what would happen to all the markers and crayons that no longer work. I brought my thoughts to a teacher, and because of my idea, the student union started a program to collect dead markers, crayons, and dead headphones to recycle.
Mr. Showerhow, our art teacher, helped create bands for donations of dead markers. If you find any, send them to ADS.
Meet our school safety rangers. These 2 5th graders came up with the idea themselves and now keep our hallways safe during dismissal. Way to lead by example.
Some of our favorite ways to build a community is through creating whole school experiences.
Like the Mustang morning message. A few 5th graders took it upon themselves to create the riddle of the week during these announcements.
Hi there, we're part of the crew behind the Mustang Morning Message, a daily dose of awesome to start the day.
Morning announcements are usually just announcements, but we thought, why not make them more fun and exciting?
That's why we came up with the riddle of the week. Something to get our peers thinking, laughing, and maybe even chatting with your friends.
I know at ADS, my ideas can come to life just by speaking up.
We also have a few student-led celebrations on Friday. First, there is Fight on Friday, which is our own version of Name That Tune. And when we have dance dismissal. This is a student-led activity where 5th graders take turns being DJ on the intercom. It's a fun way to end the week, especially when we see our peers smiling or even singing along.
Who doesn't love ending the week with music and dancing in the halls?
Every year, Abbot-Downing's graduating classes create a time capsule, with each student adding something to leave their mark. This year, the very first one to start the tradition will finally be over.
Let's not forget our awesome unified arts staff that help support student engagement. Mr. A started the bike bus, a fun, active way to ride to school with friends in the morning.
Mr. Casey leads our American Heart Association fundraiser and teaches us about keeping our bodies and minds healthy and strong. And Mrs. Shutter helps us light the night each year and every year with creativity and imagination.
And with Missy Locke's help, students create, produce, and star on Mustang TV, just like this.
2 of our 5th grade peers even launched a sports video podcast called Theo and Nikki Talk Sports. Recently, they interviewed an ADS alumni who was running a fundraiser to upgrade our outdoor basketball court. Talk about leadership in action. Did you know our school board report is written by students? Yep, it's true.
Games, keeping in front of family, or helping shape our school. Students' voice everywhere.
We're not just learning, we're leading.
And that's the Mustang way.
Great job, girls.
You guys are so good. That was amazing.
Mr. Herbert, I think Concord High School has some competition on the morning. Yeah, I'm telling you right now. Maybe send some students down to get some schooling.
Does anyone have questions for our students? All right, well, what's your favorite part of doing it?
Writing the script.
Writing the script? Okay. What about you?
Like being able to share ideas with like other people. Probably the recording and everything. It's really fun, being able to correct our mistakes and stuff.
So I was watching your reporters, and when they're on site, how do they access the script? Is it written in front of them? Is it on an iPad?
You want to answer?
Yeah. We write on a doc shared with me, Jillian, and Maddie, and Mr. Blinn and Missy Locko. We meet in Mr. Blinn's room and write the script on a doc, and then it gets sent to the high school once it's all, checked and edited.
But when the reporters are like out in the field, how are they reading from a script, or have they memorized it?
It depends. Sometimes Miss Ulaka will take her computer and she will write something, and then she'll put it into this editing app, and the words will like flow down as they're speaking. And or sometimes they'll, if it's just short, then Miss Ulaka will just ask them to say this, and then they'll record it.
Fantastic. And it's such a great demonstration of how education is changing so fast and why we need to make some changes, because it's not the same education that it was even 10 years ago. Fantastic. Well done.
Y'all have done a
Great job.
really good job. This is awesome stuff. Thank you for bringing it to us and sharing it.
Mrs. Murphy, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that they're leaving as fifth graders, but there's also a program now at Runlet Middle School, and they're doing morning messages. So by the time they do get to the high school, they'll be quite the
You'll be
on-screen
producers.
folks. Yeah. I guess the other thing is just think about the skills that they learn in this. You know, they're writing, they're editing, their voices, they're speaking, they're doing public speaking. All of the skills that are important in their English language arts curriculum and the competencies, and yet they're doing it as they described, as Maddie described, in a very fun way. So it's great.
Well,
We're so
and
proud of you.
a thank you to the Concord Trust that helps make a lot of these innovative projects possible. A couple of weeks ago, we saw last year's a presentation on last year's and next year's winners, and hoping to have them come in to present to the full board on some of the things that they've done. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you
Great
so
job.
much.
Thank you.
I'll look forward to the blooper reel.
They have bloopers, by the way.
How could you not? That's gold. You show that at the end of the year. Oh, I'm so proud of them. That's like super vulnerable, right? Like to get on camera and stuff. It's so cool.
That's super polished. Very well done.
Yeah.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank
Thank
you.
Next up, we have our student report. Might have to grab your microphones. I'm sorry. We lent them to the students.
It's okay.
Hello, I hope everyone had a great vacation. This will be a short update from me. Last month we had the NHS induction for the junior class and celebrating the seniors who were previously a part of NHS by handing them their cords for their upcoming graduation in June. And over break, students who applied to CRTC have found out whether or not they have gotten into their preferred program of choice, while current CRTC students have also found out during break whether or not they've gotten into year 2 of their current program. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, microphone. Good evening. We just finished up our first day after break at CHS, and with this, AP testing has started already for those taking the exams. And then this month, seniors have an awards night on the 21st at 6 o'clock. And then the week before break, CHS hosted a college fair. And then this Friday, CHS will also be hosting a career fair with Rising Tide Pathways. It's hard to believe that we're already coming up in the end of the school year, but it's feeling closer by the day. Seniors are starting to get very busy, looking forward to graduation on Saturday the 14th, prom on Thursday with our red carpet on Main Street and photos by Chip, a local photographer, taking pictures, and our senior trip at the Mount Washington dinner cruise. And then finally coming up on the 15th and the 16th, CHS Drama will present Hadestown at 7 p.m. and has a 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. showing on the 17th. Besides that, we have a pretty quiet month, so thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Superintendent?
Thanks. I'm going to try to follow the schedule that's there, but I'd like to start with Matt. We just wanted to give you an update on the work that's being done at the high school around the HVAC systems.
Thanks, Kathleen. So, wanted to review a little timeline with you. We started about a year ago with all the pre-planning engineering work.
Mr. Herbert, we were going to have questions for you, so you might as well just come on now.
So for the past year, we've been doing the design and engineering work. We got our state fire marshal approval in the fall of this year. January of this year, we started 2-shift operation where we've had low voltage control wiring taking place after hours There's been some steel fabrication, some metal work happening. Over the past 2 breaks, we made significant progress and headway, all in light of the upcoming summer. And I will say and compliment, Tim's been great with Jay to help look at the schedule and open the school up when it comes to be June 18th. And that's the official start date. We'll be in full swing. We'll have anywhere from 50, 60 contractors on site. The school will be closed for student activity, but the only other people besides contractors we'll have in the building are custodians to keep the school clean, from the previous year and do the typical summer cleaning. Substantial completion for the project would be on August 15th. The unique thing about this project is we've done so much pre-work that as the cranes come and put the new equipment, take the old equipment off and put the new equipment on, they will be, as they're getting hooked up electrically, they'll also be commissioned at the same time. So it gives us a real leg up and advantage. We have met with the city, police, and fire. Tim, you and your crew has been with us. We've talked with general services, engineering, traffic. We did an overlay about 3-4 weeks ago of the site itself and talked about where the cranes were going to be, explained it to the city, any emergency responders, so that as we get closer and on those dates, they'll know the areas of the building that we're working in. But so far, we've really made some excellent headway. And again, Tim, I don't know if you want to talk about the summer plans for the students.
This summer, there's some of our summer activities that we typically done, the credit recovery or competency recovery, as well as our ESY programs. Jay has been so graciously open to having us come down to RMS. We'll be meeting with Matt, I believe, is it this week or this Friday?
This Friday.
To talk about movement of necessary equipment we need down there for our ESY programs, as well as we'll be meeting with IT to talk about how during the summer to make it so a phone, if you were to call Tim Herbert at the Concord High School, will actually ring to a location where I'll be sitting at RMS. So that way we can continue basic operations and communications of the high school despite the fact we won't necessarily be in that building. So we're working on those logistics over the next couple weeks. In addition to that, our competency recovery remediation, some of it will take place at Runlet, some of it in the past, as we have offered students to do some stuff virtually. So we'll be doing that. We've also made some serious gains in the last couple, I would say, months with our WIN days that we've added in for extended advisories. So we're doing real-time remediation as the year goes on, which is reducing that large number of students needed the remediation at the end of the year. So with all those things combined, we're very optimistic that we'll still be able to do our remediation programs the end of June using space at Runlet or virtual if necessary. And in addition to that, that we'll still have our ESY program going on at Runlet. The game plan for our 9th grade orientation is when we return in August to the building, that we're able to host it a couple weeks prior to school opening in August. That week where we invite the teachers back and students come back later in the week, we will be hosting our 9th grade orientation, which has historically been 4 days, get them acclimated to the building, staffed by many of the 9th grade teachers as well as counselors and administrators, so they get to know the whole team that they're going to be working with before they arrive on day one.
Great. Okay.
Go. Do you have more questions for me, Pam?
Anyone have other? I know those were questions that had come up. So does anyone have any other questions?
Not for Tim, but for Matt.
Yeah,
Sure.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Cashman, this is a big project, and I applaud you for your planning. We're also doing a culvert project, and is there any overlap or conflict there, and what do we anticipate that impact on traffic to be?
There will be overlap in terms of happening at the same time, but there won't be any conflict in terms of where that sinkhole replacement is taking place and where the cranes are going to be. But, with any construction project, things come up and you have to just deal with them on a day-to-day basis. We'll be having weekly job site meetings. I'll be up there most of the summer, just monitoring and working with the project to see it through. So.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Meeker?
I'm curious about with the number of contractors, the equipment, where is the staging area over the summer for such things? And
We've got so much of it planned right down to delivery that we'll have crews disassembling the rooftop units, and as the new units come in, they'll have an empty flatbed. They'll bring the crane on. They'll take the old units off and then plop the new ones on in a pretty smooth process.
Okay, so we won't be storing anything in parking lots or anything that needs to remain secure over the summer?
We won't. Don't forget, we've got over 200 cameras throughout the inside and exterior. Those will be in full use, but there'll be some minor piping and materials outside, but a lot will be on the roof, and some is already being stored inside the building.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Other questions? All right, well, thank you, Mr. Cashman.
Sure.
Superintendent.
Godspeed with that, guys.
Great, I know
Good
you
luck.
want it, yeah, it's a big project,
It's a
but
big
I'm
project.
confident Matt has really done a great job in organizing it, and Tim has done his part in terms of the building, so we're pretty confident. These meetings have been going on for quite a while, since the time you approved that bond to do the work, they jumped right in, so I'm feeling pretty good about it.
We're looking forward to it.
The second topic was another topic that you asked for. I'm trying to get something, you know what, by the way, there's only 30 days left in the year. For you, Van, you could take away 2 days, so it's really 28. So just saying, there's so much going on, so I wanted to be able to share. You had asked about AI in coding, and that was an issue, was a concern that perhaps our coding program wasn't preparing our youngsters for the collegiate work that they might do around coding. So I asked Kim if she would put together a little presentation for you. Just briefly, you'll hear more about AI as the year goes on, because it's become, of course, a very popular tool for kids, for our students to use. So I'm going to let Kim talk a little bit about that.
Thank you. And I turned to our digital learning specialist to find out more about what they're doing. So we have a digital learning specialist in every building, minus CRTC, but they have their own tech persons. And I meet with them monthly. Part of my goal when I came here was to try to make things comparable from school to school in terms of what students are experiencing regarding engineering and STEM practices, problem solving, critical thinking, and additionally what softwares they were using. There was not an alignment from school to school. We had pockets of expertise in various places, but we really come together and we collaborate regularly about programming and curriculum and instruction. So as you know, our digital learning specialists are also our library media specialists as well, so they are quite tasked. At this time, though, I can say that every student at the elementary level, and you can see in an executive summary starting on page 25, that it's outlined there what the students at the elementary level are experiencing in terms of coding. They're looking at working with algorithms, simple loops, conditional loops, sequence of events, and debug algorithms, and all of the schools are using the same software tools to help with that platform: Code.org, CodeMonkey, Unplug Coding, and Rosie's Runtime. We're also in the process with Jack Dunn and some of the IT personnel looking at the validity of these programs, the richness of these different platforms, and whether or not we want to continue or replace any of them. So that's up for discussion as part of our review. You can see, too, in their summary that on page 26, the Runlet Middle School digital learning specialist provided some information about what happens at their tech ed course, which all students in grades 6 through 8 take a tech ed course as part of their exploratory rotations. They're working on 3D challenges. They're working on CAD, which is computer-aided design, and working with robotics. They also have various clubs that students can join for some further enrichment, the robotics competitions, and some innovative things which are optional for students to participate in. They also have something called, the Code HS, which is Code High School, which is also a program that's used at the high school as well. So you know, you're welcome to look through this. There's a lot here. I also asked that the digital learning specialists at the high school highlight some of what they're using. And really, the access is intended to be both within the computer science courses, but also integrated into the curriculum. We really do try to foster a push-in model where students are experiencing these various coding platforms within their curriculum, within their instruction. And that's a piece of work because we need to have the knowledge on the part of the educators to be able to implement and include coding within their instruction. So upon looking through this, what I would ask is if you have any specific questions, because there's a lot here over the 4 pages and they work together to present this summary. If you have any questions, if you could send them to me so that I could get responses from them, the teams in particular, because I'm not able to answer discrete questions about particular platforms other than some of the more simplistic ones. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mrs. Hastings?
One thought that I was having is that my understanding and my remembering of this discussion was in part that our students didn't have the correct math courses. So that when they got to the colleges, if they were interested in going along this route, they were having to go back and take remediation math classes. And so I want to make sure that our students, are we addressing that issue as well?
I'm not sure. I would turn to Mr. Herbert if he wouldn't mind joining us. I just recall the question about having enough tech ed experience and coding experience, which they are.
Definitely.
Definitely. Even starting in kindergarten, you'll see the students interacting with various, they're like these little robots, and you know, telling it to go straight, take a right, like doing the coding for them to move around the room. That's starting in kindergarten. Regarding the math.
So I can speak to that. Brenda, some of what we've shared with the instructional committee about our restructuring the scope and sequence of our math courses, moving Algebra 2 and not requiring geometry in order to access Algebra 2, allows for earlier access to the pre-calc, calculus type courses within the 4-year span at Concord High School. But in addition to that, just this past week talking with Kathleen, is reaching out to our community partners in higher ed and see what courses they may also be able to offer in that area during our school day, so our students wouldn't be burdened with, you know, having to take it after hours or, you know, at NHTI or Southern New Hampshire. Could they do it on site? And we do have some agreements with like New England College, Southern New Hampshire, NHTI, where they're willing to do some of that work with us. So we're going to expand beyond what we're offering in those areas as well. So go ahead.
Sorry. Are we going back to our recent graduates that and asking them how prepared they feel they are?
We do have a survey that goes out, but we don't have a lot of participation.
Okay. Well, they're busy.
Well, and part of it is, you know, it's only as good as the information we get from them on parting ways, and we don't necessarily get we don't come close to getting 100% feedback of a personal email because now their CHS email is not in use, and that's been our primary mode of communication. So we try to say that I have a great sample size. I would say no. But we're aware that we're always trying to figure out what we can do to give students access to the opportunity is what it comes down to. Just the more opportunity we have there, if they can take advantage of it while they're with us, the better chance they have of being better prepared for these.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Others?
No, just Van and Aryn, you need to get back in touch with them, and after you graduate, let them know what's going on.
Aryn's got another year.
Yeah, I know she has another year. I'm just warming her up for the coming back.
You know, I would really be interested in seeing this as grade level competencies and what we're expecting students to know at each year. I think that would give me a better sense of what we're doing, and give the community a better sense to ask questions and understand if it's enough.
Sure. Would you like that at an instructional committee meeting, do you think, or a board?
I mean,
that seems sufficient.
So, yeah, instructional.
Sure. I know that they follow the ITSE standards, the informational technology standards, and that they are looking at the competencies, but I'm happy to lay those out for you.
And then the other thing, that this is less about what we're teaching and more about how the world around us is changing so quickly, and wondering as a district, whether we need to have a formal AI policy for both our staff and our students. You know, AI can be great and helpful. There's also, you know, I heard a great scary story this morning about how its math is getting better, but it's increasingly hallucinating. You know, you ask it a marathon on the West Coast and it tells you about the Philadelphia Marathon, and lots of legal cases where lawyers are using ChatGPT and citing cases that don't exist. So, you know, I feel like we need to formalize something that it should be something that we're teaching our students how to use responsibly, but I think we also have to make clear when it's not acceptable for our staff and our students.
That's an absolutely perfect segue into my next piece.
About
and Terry Wolf is here to answer questions as well. Terry and I put together a committee, an AI committee, over a year ago in the spring, and on like Tom Crumrine, the IT persons are on it. Justin Bork used to be on it, but is no longer. Digital learning specialists are supporting it. We meet about every other month, and what we did first, very first off, was we were looking for model products, model policies, and we did not find any in terms of and the school board does not yet have a model policy for us to adopt. That being said, there are suggested practices for schools, and so what we did was we opened up. ChatGPT used to be blocked to staff. We unblocked it for the last 6 weeks of school last year for staff, and then we put out an extensive survey asking for persons' feedback. Some were like, this is great, I love it, I use it. Some were like, I don't want anything to do with it, which was fine. We got a spattering of responses, very, very good responses from the high school and the middle school. So then what we've been doing is meeting as a group and doing various trainings. We had a person named Bill Church come to our admin council retreat over the summer and did some training with the principals, and then he has come and offered probably up to 6 different times. He's been on the menu for professional development, and anyone can sign up for that. We had a special session for our speech and language therapists this last session. Other than that, it's anybody who's interested in learning more. We've also, Terry and I have attended many AI sessions from professionals, national speakers. And I actually have one tomorrow, a webinar on building policy around the use of AI. So we have baby steps with the end in sight, but we've been going very slowly and trying to watch what the field is doing in terms of other schools and what they're not doing. We have not opened up AI to students yet in terms of our district website because we're not ready to do that. What we're ready to do next is to come up with some guidelines for staff first. This is how you would use it in your classroom. This is how you would not use it. This is how you might do a demo for students. This is what you would want to stay away from. So that would really be our next step. We know students are using AI at home, and so we're not blind to that. But what we want to do is offer more professional development for educators so that they know how to spot it when it might come their way, and how to respond to it if it comes their way. So we do have a committee. I would welcome any school board member who'd like to join the committee. We do meet during the day, so that's sort of our available time. And our next step really is to have some concise professional development. We were thinking of actually having a couple of webinars that teachers would have to watch and get a certificate at the end of watching, as opposed to doing like a big, huge PD day where you don't really know people's levels of attention and engagement. And anyone who would want to use it in their classroom would have to do these particular webinars that we talked about designing. And I'm looking to Terry to see if you have anything else to add. That's sort of a summary of where we've been this last year, a little over a year now.
Question? I think that's important, and I understand that no one has, but if we're going to train teachers to spot it, then, do we have a policy that tells students they're not allowed to use it, or when they're allowed to use it? And, I think we communications and policy has a lot on its plate, and the legislative session is almost over, so there'll be more. But I think we might want to start thinking about, either starting with instructional or something that says, this is when it's allowed, this is how you can responsibly use it as a student, this is when you can't, and this is how you, and then I think thinking about how we incorporate into our curriculum the risks.
Absolutely.
Could I
Of
offer
false
a
information.
suggestion? Because AI is ever changing and also feels both new and old simultaneously. I think that any policy development that the committee would undertake could reflect that there is a need for study and a need for a plan. And then, just like we're actually going to be discussing tonight, leave it to the district to create a plan that is outside of policy that they can build on as they go. So, as we come up with, the guidelines for students and families and staff, it can be built out into a plan rather than having the board sort of formalize it every time something comes up.
It's its own thing.
Yeah, so I would be happy to add to the agenda a discussion at policy around building out a policy that gives you that framework. And it's a great point, Pam.
And currently, we're relying on two different policies, so to speak. One is responsible use of technology. We feel that covers us right now, for now, even though it needs to be updated soon. And the other is the code of ethics or code of conduct for teachers. On the teacher side, we're leaning into that for appropriate use. No student data is to ever be used, and the teachers all know this. No student data, no student names are to be used at all in any kind of an AI search. So we have established that. But you're absolutely right, Kara. We're ready to get more formal. At first, we were sort of like, what do we do?
Right.
AI. And then once we've become more accustomed to actually using it, exploring it, going to these various workshops, we're seeing it as less daunting, and that we feel that we're ready to take that step to provide some guardrails around the use.
Great.
Kim, the California Department of Education has a really good AI toolkit for educators and students. It's right on their website. It might be nice to sort of like, instead of reinventing the wheel, following that template for our own use, because what works in California is not going to work in New Hampshire necessarily, but I think having that kind of resource toolkit might be something that you could produce as collateral for, educators, administrators, and parents, and not have to rely so heavily on like having something concrete right away as far as a policy is concerned. Just like, this is how we view this, and some explanation, but you all are going to handle it perfectly fine. You don't need my advice.
I appreciate that as a resource. We have been watching resources, and we do have a Teams folder set up with lots of different information and training that's shared amongst the committee, and we have some really, really smart people that are helping us. So
that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Aryn, Van, do you have any thoughts on this? You don't see it at all. Nobody uses it for term papers or anything. Okay.
I'm going to ask AI how to answer that question.
I think the nice suggestion here, just to kind of finish this discussion, is we're working on your 2 years strategic plan, the addition to the current plan. So I think that's a great goal for that strategic plan over the next 2 years. So just said to Kim, let's make sure we add that in for goals.
Awesome.
You want me to go? Yep. So if you look on page 30, there's the Lakes Region Consortium. I wanted to be able to address this. We addressed it at the last meeting in April. Are we good?
Yeah, I apologize. We were just
discussing this document.
Yeah.
The consortium?
Consortium. I couldn't remember if it was in the board book or if we just
put it in the
discussed
board book for you so you could see it. So just a little quick background. This all started and really came out of some discussion at Lakes Region superintendents. We're all looking for ways, the group was really looking for ways in which we can continue to offer youngsters opportunities that they may not have at their school. How do you do that? We know that open enrollment is on the on the forefront. It's still a very active discussion at the legislature. What does that mean? How can we access each other's programs? So the intent behind it, and I signed up, you can see that under membership, because I'm a member of the Lakes Region, Concord, and I wanted to participate in the discussions, right? I wanted to know what that meant, what was the impact on Concord, because obviously that's who I represent. Very similar to the work that John did around special education. What does that look like? Is that a benefit to us? Does that not work for us? So we asked those questions. So I participated in this consortium and the discussion around it. But I put it in the book so you could see all the detail. And basically the detail says if I'm a student in Concord and I want to take a course in Belmont, I can take that course for no cost and go to Belmont. But I have to provide my own transportation, and the school district doesn't do that. So that's kind of the thinking behind it. And I've actually, as you know, offered school districts when they were struggling to come to Concord, Franklin, Pittsfield. We were talking with Canterbury because they were looking for, obviously, program and opportunities for their youngsters. I did a lot of discussion about this and talked to some folks. I talked to some of my colleagues in the Lakes region. We had a meeting after our meeting here. Some have joined, some have decided not to, and I'm recommending that we not. And I'll tell you the reasons why. First of all, you have a contract with Deerfield, and Deerfield pays tuition and pays for courses to come to Concord. So do I now say, well, if you want to take AP chemistry, that you don't have to pay for that because it's a course that you are taking there? It got very complex for us. And so that was one factor. The other factor that was troublesome to me was the issues around equity. Their transportation has always been a challenge for us in Concord, right? Some youngsters just have trouble getting from point A to point B, and never mind expecting that they're going to get in a car and drive to Guilford or Laconia or wherever, and expect that their families would be able to provide that transportation. I felt that put an unfair burden on our students, which is our priority, of course. And lastly, it was hard for me to really wrap my head around the fact that we have this incredible pathways. If you've seen it, you've seen the program of studies. There's very little that we don't have here in Concord. I mean, and I'm not trying to play a different card. Our colleagues, my colleagues in the Lakes region, much smaller schools, right? And so they don't necessarily have the capacity to offer what is offered here. But, think about it. You have 1,400 students that you educate every day. We also have the benefit of the Career and Technical Center. So now I've got 9 districts coming into our Career and Technical Center to take courses. So it just didn't seem a really good fit for Concord. As much as I think what they're proposing, and I was really intrigued by the fact that youngsters would have, our students would have an opportunity for coursework. Mm-hmm. The only time that I have a parent who's interested in being in another school is around the size of Concord High School. Some kids, there's 1,400 youngsters there, and then, oh, by the way, there's another about 500 that come in on buses every day to go to the technical center. And so it can be overwhelming for some youngsters, and and so I have on occasion over my last 5 years had maybe 1 or 2 parents interested. I think I've actually brought some to you, interested in having their children attend another school. But that's a full day. That's not just one course.
And that wouldn't be covered.
And that would not be covered by that. So I was just looking and reaching for reasons that it might work for us. And again, wanting to be a strong supporter of my colleagues. Kids might want to come here too, but the problem with the tuition is the tuition with Deerfield, so that's where it really created heartburn for me. And so I'm not recommending to you that we participate in this.
Well, I agree, and I think it's the tuition to Deerfield, but it's also the fact that given our expansive course offerings, I think we would have we would be a prime attraction, and we wouldn't be sending students out. So our taxpayers would be carrying the costs without a reciprocal benefit, and I don't think that.
Well, I won't tell you that, you know that we've been working on a presentation for you around open enrollment, because we do believe that we have the opportunity for students who may be interested in the program of studies that's offered at Concord High School, and if we have a seat, right? If we have a seat available, that would behoove us to participate. But there's a tuition to that. The sending district pays. Right now, the legislation says 80% of the tuition bill. So there's still a lot of work there, but I get it. I mean, we have to be, you have to be responsive to our taxpayers, and I need to think about those things.
Yeah, I appreciate, Kathleen, that you've been sort of anticipating the open enrollment coming down from Concord over the past several years. You've been talking about how you've been sort of awaiting that legislation. We know that it's passed the House with pretty strong support. So yeah, thank you very much for the discernment on this. Appreciate all the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Okay. Can I keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So one of the other topics which you asked me to look at was an RFP for the superintendent search. And so I have a draft. I've actually worked on the draft. We will put that together. I noticed that you have a meeting that on the 21st. I was hoping that I could bring it to that meeting and let you review it, and so we can get it out in public, right? Isn't there an
executive?
Yeah, and you gave yourself some more time, I believe, 5:30 to 7?
Yes. Yes, because we're working on the forms, the executive committee is working on the forms for the superintendent evaluation.
Oh, right.
But
it'll be the
yes,
night
we
of the
can-
superintendent, I guess we'll call it that. But if that's appropriate and if you're okay with that, then I will bring that to you. I have a draft. I worked on, because there's a lot of detail they want it's kind of informational. We know that there are a number of companies out there, School Board Association, NESDEC, which we're a member of, and we've been checking around. There's a couple of new companies, new to us. Derry just used a company that I was not familiar with to hire their superintendent, so.
I think the
it'll be
executive committee can review it, and then.
So if you're okay with that, then I'll do that, all right.
And then my thought was, when we can bring it to the first for the board to sign off on sending it out, and that we'd ask the executive committee to serve as sort of the evaluation committee of the RFP responses and bring a recommendation to the full board, and perhaps Mr. Dunn can help us with that as well as you.
Yep, okay, be happy to. The other thing I would like to bring to you on that night is a timeline, because that'll give you a sense of the process, okay? I'm gonna just keep going. I was asked a great question. When there's a situation in any of our schools, high school, middle school, elementary schools, let's say there's injuries involved in it, how does Concord Hospital integrate with us on that? And I thought it was a great question, and I did not have the answer, so I had to do some digging. And I talked to the chief of police. When there's any incident, the police are there first, okay? They stage the fire people off away from the situation because they go in first, right? Once they get in there and clear it, they then call in the fire department. And the fire department alerts Concord Hospital, and they go into their protocols for an emergency, where they bring in people and do all that. So I thought it was a great question, especially then, like, we had an evacuation a couple weeks ago, and that question came, and I thought it was a great question. I didn't know how that protocol works. Police first, they stage the firemen off. Once they realize the building that the firemen can go in, EMTs too, you know, whatever, then they go in, they're the first ones to notify the hospital.
I think the question, because it came through me, was a little bit of how are they integrated in our planning? Are they, like, do they have a good understanding of how many students we have and staff do we have in each school? If there's a call, you know, police respond and say, do they know what the scope of, if it's a Krista McCullough versus the high school? And are we integrating them into that type of emergency planning and response?
I'm looking over at Matthew because Matthew
and I know we have
serving.
There's a drill
We got a new,
coming up, so
yeah, but we also have a new committee that Chief Chisholm asked us to join, and that's the protocols for an EOP, Emergency Operation Plan, and they wanted the school district sitting at the table because we can provide that kind of data. Matt, did I?
You did. One thing I would add is every year we submit each school's EOP to the Homeland Security, and we have to get all the signatures on it. So Chief of Police, it goes, all of that information for each school goes through each one of the agencies. So they definitely have their eyes on it. I think we have a lot of conversation with police and fire anyway, so that additional information is good stuff to share, and we can customize
I'm sure
it.
Concord Hospital has an emergency operations person, and it might make sense that we reach out to them and, you know,
Sure.
make sure they know about our plans and, you know, what questions they might have.
I can do that.
Just make
Yeah.
sorry. I think this is a pretty good follow-up, but last week you probably saw a lot of fire trucks and emergency vehicles, and you probably, on Thursday, our firefighters used the elevator shaft to practice, and so I was grateful that they did a video of the event. The chief said they had a lot of new firefighters and wanted them trained. So they actually were all geared up with all kinds of equipment, learning how to use that equipment, and down the elevator shaft they went, and they had placed at the bottom of the elevator shaft was like a doll, some sort of body that wasn't real. Anyway, and so they learned how to, you know, bring that person up and provide the kind of emergency care that they needed. So it was fascinating. Matt, were you there when they did it?
We did all the preliminary organization. I wasn't there for that, but we also did a active threat drill at the high school with the police as well. It was a good time to do it. No one was in school, and they could
And that
practice.
included all kinds of folks, the police, the state police, and they were there on Tuesday practicing in full gear, should there be an event. So I'm thrilled that they use our schools to do their practice, because that's a great way for them to know the layout, especially Concord High School. I suggested Runlet too, because Runlet is a maze also and can easily get lost there.
Yeah.
So, just so you knew, that happened last week. It was awesome. Got great feedback from Chief Chisholm this week.
Just to point out that for any parents or people who are concerned, you cannot access our elevator shaft. The doors are tightly closed. They are secured. It's not an accident that would happen in any normal course of the day. So.
Right, but, and they know how to open those doors. I watched them on the video, so.
They have
yeah,
special
they have-
tools, keys,
that's
and a
right,
variety of
that's right.
things. Our students could not do that, so.
But again, I think it's the opportunity for them to do their drills in a more real situation, and I'm glad we could do that for them. And last but not least, the state of the SAMHSA grants. I know you all know, we've said it 100 times, right? We have about $10 million worth of mental health grants through SAMHSA. the SAMHSA grants come through the Department of Health and Human Services. Now, we all got alerts. I did last week. First call was to Ellen. Because there was a significant cut at the Department of Ed of $1 billion around mental health grants. But it wasn't any of our grants, because we're in the Department of Health and Human Services. This happened in the grants that the Department of Ed offered. And I mean the federal Department of Ed.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, we're okay. So far, so good. We've been doing invoices and getting reimbursements. So, I mean, we've been working on that. You know, it was a 4 or 5 year grant. So far, so good. I just wanted to let you know that it did not impact our mental health grants, which have been really getting great feedback. So, just a quick update on that. I think that's it.
Assistant Superintendent Search?
Oh, right, Assistant Superintendent Search. I guess it must have been I must have did that on purpose, John, sorry.
Yeah, we've decided not to accept
Did a
that,
denial.
so we're gonna move on to other things.
Thanks, it was buried. Sorry, John. So we got together and to come up with a same kind of situation, you know, for a timeline for the Assistant Superintendent for Student Services. The job was posted on May 2nd. We reviewed the job description again on May 2nd. We're now working to create a committee, and that committee will be robust because it includes, you know, it's going to include our parents, students, staff, teachers, special ed teachers, some of our like assistants, coordinators in the building that John has worked with. Certainly, I'll sit in on it with Kim. I would think it would behoove us to have a board member. So let's, you know, I'll leave that up to you. But our nurse positions, because that's overseen. Sorry, our nurse positions would also be part of that. So we're underway. We'll have a timeline. I'll have it all laid out for you when we get everything going. Okay.
Thank you.
And that's all I have, unless you have questions.
Memorial Field update. Mr. Richards, Ms. Higgins.
I'll take the first one.
Sounds good.
Okay. First meeting was on April 1st. It was an opportunity for members of the city council as well as our members, Barb and I, to sit down and discuss review the master plan concept that was provided to the community by VHB. We reviewed that. Then there was some discussion with regards to the fact that the city does not have adequate field capacity and is actually pretty tight on field capacity overall, so it would make a major, would create a major issue if the Memorial Field project and the Runlet Middle School project, or the middle school project on South Street, however you want to term that, would occur at the same time. So there was some discussion with that. There was also discussion with regards to the layout of the plan and the fact that there is only one parking area and one access point from both a safety point as well as a ability to handle the traffic. So there was some discussion with regards to the possibility of looking at acquiring some state property or access to the Memorial Field from state property, and we discussed a little bit about looking into that and to inquiring about that possibility and to reaching back out to VHB with our questions. They were not able to provide answers or to discuss this for VHB, that is, at our next meeting, which was April 22nd. However, I'll let Barb talk a little bit about that.
We didn't really get much further, quite honestly, but we did have a fairly robust discussion around the proposed redesign of Memorial Field and how there was a lot of moving things. Tennis courts here and a second multi-purpose field there, and when we really got discussing the property, the piece of property itself, a lot of the major water issues are that back, if you're standing on Fruit Street, that back left corner where the soccer field is and the practice football field. And so it made logical sense that if we were trying to talk about phasing this project, the first thing we need to do is address drainage and construct whatever field is going to exist in that corner. Well, one plan has tennis courts over there. So the thought was, okay, you know, if that makes sense if you want to put two multi-purpose fields in the middle where the track is and right next to it, but maybe it makes sense to have it down there and have other access via buying state land, which we all know is wicked easy. So a lot of the discussion, of course, is all speculation because we don't own that property. But the logic made sense. I was a little pissy about it, which I'm sure you all know. Just thinking we're going to talk ourselves into a circle and just not get anywhere, which is how it feels a little bit. But it did generate some good thought on perhaps leaving the layout essentially the way that it is. And we discussed a bit about the Little League field that's on the property. But Concord is very, very short. It seems like we have a lot of Little League fields, but for the number of kids playing, we really don't. They're overlapping and busy all the time. I'm a Little League mom now, so I have some knowledge on this area now, not just tracks. We didn't make a whole lot more. We're waiting for answers we don't have. My major concern, I think all of us, was that we can't hold up planning to see if and when we get state property. It makes sense when you think of Langley Parkway. There's state land there, and then there's land that's sort of wooded that's owned by I believe by the nursing home, perhaps. Pleasant View. Yeah, Pleasant View, and maybe a little bit KXL. There's a lot of access to the back of Memorial Field that we don't have, we're not privy to. So we also discussed maybe just an access road that gives more access to the field. It would be wonderful if we could put a parking lot back there. If you can picture it in your head, if you've ever been to Memorial Field, think of driving up Clinton Street past the churches and taking a right and having a parking lot there, and into Memorial Field you go to the back soccer field and the practice football field. It would make good sense. And starting the project in that bottom corner addresses the pond that is pretty much there all the time. So there's not a lot of progress made, but the conversations are becoming more direct, and a lot of it relies on answers that would need to come from the city, and Dave is as busy as everybody, so.
Well, we posed a lot of questions to the contractor too.
Yes.
And to VHB. And one of the advantages of potentially relocating one of those multi-purpose fields to from where it was originally presented is that it would allow us to keep the tennis courts,
Right.
which are relatively new and still unusable. So why would we want to, re-spend that money when we
Right.
don't need to?
Right.
We're trying to look at ways we can make this as
make less
efficient,
change,
as affordable as possible.
Yeah.
And then our next meeting is currently scheduled for May 20th. We do not have a location at that point.
That was that.
Questions? Did we get a ruling on whether these are our minutes that we need to approve and accept? We were gonna.
We did not get that settled. It's just two.
And I didn't
committees,
submit
yeah.
minutes. Last time Dave did the minutes,
Yeah,
so. I'll take better notes next
So
time.
we will hold it and ask
Yeah, I
our
would
attorney.
hold off.
There was a question of whether they're our minutes or the city's minutes, or neither. so-
Joint minutes? we're
Yeah.
not sure.
But do they bring minutes like that for subcommittee to the council?
I don't know if the council's,
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I don't know the reports.
Mr. Gill
yet,
did
so-
the minutes last
Yeah.
time.
We just wanted to report it here because we felt it was
Yeah,
important to
yeah.
update the
Yeah.
board.
I will check on that. I didn't get a chance.
Thank you.
Talk.
The finance report. Mr. Dunn.
Okay, that starts on page 39. We are about, what do we say, 31 days, including today, till the 17th, the last day of school. About a little less than 2 months left till this fiscal year ends. Right now, we're in the process of going through and closing out purchase orders. One of the things I will highlight in here, because I think it was asked at one of the last financial updates, if you go to page 40 and you look at just at permanent subs and call-in subs, we have spent so far year-to-date, assuming 141 to 148 days, $665,030 $33 for sick days. That does not include any contracted service or any other contractors we've hired to come in to cover. So it's about $4,500 to $4,700 a day to cover sick outages. So just to highlight that, because that's been asked about before. We will be, everything else, salaries and benefits right now, there's nothing that's jumping out at the moment. And as we work through the utilities, tomorrow I will receive the bids for both natural gas and electric. I did get a preliminary bid last week, and the electric is down a couple cents, about 3 cents, from 12 point something cents to 9 point some. But it's amazing to me how when I started here, it was 30 days and you could mail it in. Now I get the bids, I gotta let them know by 2 o'clock, otherwise I gotta go to refresh. It's that timely now. So the electric is down, but natural gas is showing right now up, about 1 to 2 decatherms higher. So I'll see what comes in tomorrow. If we decide to move on with something, we do. If we don't, we can wait. But one of them is up in November and one is up in December, electricity and natural gas. So we're going to do something for supply. But hopefully we'll be able to see some savings out of, again, electricity and natural gas. Continue to work through transportation, and we are working negotiations as well on that. Our next meeting is the week of the 21st, and also some out-of-district placements, so that's some of the reds that you're seeing in those continuing pages. But there's also encumbrances there when you look in those encumbrance lines, and we'll see what frees up, because all of it might not get spent. Okay.
Ask about the field trip budget.
Yeah, so field trips, what they do is they get reconciled quarterly. So all the field trips is a calculation of value. So in a school when a school wants to take a trip, the transportation department values it, and then that subtracts, it's a manual entry that comes out. All of this totals like 300 and some thousand, but it's just for the purposes of tracking. It's not real dollars. The real dollars are in the transportation budget. This is just for the purposes. So when you were to look at the entry, you'd see all of them total up, and then you'd see a negative amount to bring it to zero.
I just wanted to raise it in part because I have heard from PTOs in the past concerns that it takes a really long time for them to get billed by the transportation department, so that they don't then know what the impacts on their budgets are. So, something to, if there's anything we can do.
Sure, yeah.
Because they, at the elementary schools, they pay the bulk of the field trip
Yep.
expenses.
Yep. And you see that offset down in the charter on the revenue, because that's what the PTOs are.
Yeah.
But we'll have a conversation with transportation on that. Other than that, when I move through all the sixes, all the expenses, nothing else at the moment sits out. Our big thing now is going through and looking at the revenues and making sure everything is billed, because you have a lot of the Medicaid billing that has to happen. You have the Deerfield billing that'll have to happen, because there'll be the catch-up at the end of the year to tie all that out. And we should be receiving some of our last state revenue, especially with the state education tax, and likely the equitable grant was paid out. So we'll receive mostly all that revenue. You could see under the federal, the Medicaid distribution, student services going through a lot with that right now, trying to get all that in. You can go back 12 months. Other than that, we've not moved any of the money from your trust funds because they are all up to amounts. So we don't pull them over unless they're needed. And it's the same thing as it relates to any expenses that you've done to fund, like technology. It's only the up to amount. Other than that, it will go back into your trust, and we'll report that either in June or in October, depending on where things come in at. And we'll have a better idea in the next couple of weeks where we're going to end up. If you remember, we need savings of about $2.8 million from this budget to carry over. If it's short, we'll bring you options. Okay.
And then Ms. Campbell isn't here, but is there someone from the Finance Committee who can present the grants, the donation for Millbrook School, page 47. Anyone from Finance?
I must have missed that meeting. Did we see it in Finance?
You haven't seen
They
it.
came.
Don't
Oh,
believe we've seen it
okay.
in finance, but, you know,
It's under
we
the
can,
finance, so.
I can present
Yeah.
it.
Can you?
Yeah, basically, we had a donation from the Kopp family for $6,600 to provide purchase of 40 bikes and helmets for the physical education program at Millbrook School.
Mr. Finney must be pumped.
Yeah, so, yeah, I would recommend that we accept this donation.
Is there a motion to accept the
So
donation?
moved.
Moved by Ms. Higgins.
Second.
Second by Ms. Robinson. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you to the Kopp family.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Would ask that make sure that fitting of helmets is also included
Yeah,
in these,
yeah,
so that to make
very
sure the kids are wearing their helmets appropriately. Thank you.
Okay.
And now on to the instructional committee before I turn it over. Just a moment to recognize that this is Teacher Appreciation Week. We will have a formal ceremony at the end of the month recognizing our distinguished educators for the year and our retirees. But I think just to take a moment to thank all of our teachers and staff as they come back to our hopped up children from vacation week. We thank you and we appreciate you and we wish you well. Ms. Hastings.
Yes, the instructional committee met in April and we had two fantastic presentations. I'm going to do sort of in a reverse order and talk about the iReady math program update that we received that was very helpful and interesting. We've learned about the different ways the program is being implemented, as well as the successes and challenges, as all new programs have, that they're facing and working on this year. That presentation is in your board book in full. And then the second presentation that we had was from Director of Student, Staff, and Wellness Vern Seiden, along with a group of K-5 teachers who introduced Changemakers, which is an SEL program that they hope we would tonight vote to accept into adoption for the following school year for all schools. And again, this full presentation is in your board book for you, but I wanted to just give you some highlights of it. It's a Tier 1 program, which means it's offered to all students. And that's a really important, I think, thing for us to understand and appreciate, that this will affect all students. The program has a long shelf life. It is based on neuroscience and was developed by psychologists and educators together, so it's not just leaning heavily in one direction or another. There is no cost to the district at this time, as it will be covered by a Project Aware grant. I think that's correct. So, you know, it's kind of a no-brainer for us to implement this at this point. It aligns with our strategic plan that we put in for SEL. There's common language that will be used at all schools and will create intentional experiences that will help ease the transitions, especially for our 5th graders going into the middle school, because that can be such a scary time for them. So this is good. It's grade-based, which was a really important thing. I loved seeing that. It is a program, it is a kit, but it is grade-based. So the topics will be the same year to year, but the way it's presented and the material is different year to year. So it's not getting the same exact thing in 3rd grade and then in 4th grade, and then they sort of tune it out, because it's always the same. It's aligned to what the students need. The topics included in each grade level include safe relationships, self-regulation, awareness of self, understanding of others, and being a change maker, which is defined as someone who offers kindness, compassion, and hope, something we could definitely use in this world right now. There are between 25 and 31 lessons per year, which are expected to be taught once a week, and I believe that will be happening during specials. Is that correct, Kim?
The lessons, all principals agreed, will take the place of an interactive read aloud that occurs.
That's right, I'm sorry.
Once a week. It's essentially a 30-minute lesson. So it'll take the place either over 2 interactive read alouds or 1.
Thank you, that was.
And it is pre-K through 5.
Pre-K, oh, I thought it was just K through 5, so it's pre-K through 5, great. We were very impressed with the presentation and program, and the instructional committee voted 4-0 to recommend to the full board that we adopt the Changemakers SEL program for the 25-26 school year. And we'll ask for a vote on that after public comment.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, absolutely.
So this program is grant funded. Is there any requirement or commitment that we have to make to fund this beyond that or not?
I don't know, it's 4 years,
Mhm.
and I think the program that we'll get will cover it for the 4 years.
Okay.
There is an upfront cost of $52,000 around that, but it is reimbursed by the grant.
Okay.
The nice thing about
Thank
this, it's actually books.
It's,
yes,
they're
And
real
it's
books.
a-
Real books.
It's a kit, it's not like a
Mhm.
digital solution that we're buying,
Hands-on,
so
right.
it can last a little, hopefully, a little longer.
No screen time, and
Yeah.
that was really important to us, is that we wanted something that didn't involve a lot of screen time, or any, I don't think it has any, so.
Yeah. No, is it okay if I
Yes,
add that?
absolutely.
The educators who have already preemptively started using this in their classrooms enjoy using it. They've really liked the way that it sets the culture in their classroom. So we do have teachers on the ground who've been actively using it and report out that they really, really like it. So I think that's all the endorsement we need, really.
Well, and they tested and looked at several programs.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. They don't get to this point without doing a
Yeah.
ton of research.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? All right, moving on to communications and policy. We will vote on after public comment.
Great. I'm going to kick off the communication and policy section by moving to accept the minutes of the Policy and Communication Committee from April 9th, 2025.
Seconded.
Thank you. And the reason I do that is so that we can have a moment of discussion. I did not include it on the consent agenda. There's really nothing, no action items on this particular, at this meeting from the minutes, but I wanted to take a minute to talk about what we did on April 9th, which is we reviewed several of our district plans / manuals. We looked at data governance as presented by Dan Albert. We looked at our health procedure manual as presented by Laura Anderson. We looked at our suicide prevention plan as presented by Fru Seiden and John Fabrizio, and our special education manual, which is an absolute beast.
It really is.
By John Fabrizio. So just to reiterate what I mentioned earlier in the meeting, which is that we set policy that we need to review these plans, but we don't necessarily vote to approve these plans. The review was conducted, I speak for my fellow committee members, but they're welcome to chime in as well, that I think that the plans that we have in front of us are thorough, they're up to date, and they're useful. And I mean, that's the most important thing, right? We did have Ms. Boucher made a really nice connection because we've recently updated Policy 544 as it relates to weapons on school grounds, and an additional education piece around safe storage for weapons at home, and how that new policy language can be integrated into our health procedure manual and or our suicide prevention plan. I can't remember which one we recommended it go into, Liz. But they will be adding the suicide prevention plan, that's right. So that will be added. But I think that was the only change that was recommended. I will open it up to the other committee members, Jim, Barb, or Liz, to comment on that particular meeting. Anything? Go ahead.
The one thing that makes sense to me when we talk about having like a special ed manual and a health manual, and that we don't have to approve and vote on all those policies, that is oftentimes policy committees like us. I'm not a health expert necessarily. I'm not a gun safety expert. I'm not, a special ed expert, even though I am certified in special ed. But the people that come up with these procedures and practices know what they're doing and write them in a way that they can be easily implemented and followed. So us overseeing them as a policy committee is logical because we can make suggestions that might make them better followed or clearer understood. But I know sometimes people have questions like, why would you not policy that? Well, because they should policy it and we should oversee what they do. So I like that delineation, that sometimes we're doing our job by stepping back. So I just wanted
No,
to.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just would reiterate your thanks to the presenters. It was a long or very detailed evening, but the quality of the plans that were presented was really very impressive, and I think we were all, pleased at the thoroughness and the research that had gone into it.
And is required of us
Yes.
to review the plan. So we got to check a box, which always feels good. And with that, I will move on. If you are following along in the board book, I am bringing some policies to you tonight on second reading. It is policy 528, accommodation of pregnancy and related medical conditions for students. 528.1, accommodation of pregnancy and related medical conditions as it relates to personnel. Policy 528.2, accommodation of people or person with lactation or lactation-related needs. And policy 303, electronic and digital records and signatures. These were in the board book last month on first reading. I want to let everybody know that starting on page 74, we had a slight error. Typically, when we bring policies to you on second reading, we have both the first reading version and the second reading version because, in theory, amendments could have happened between the two. Unfortunately, what happened tonight is that in your board book is our very first draft.
Gotcha.
In the board book. So it was a slight technical error. So what you are seeing starting on page 74 is the very first draft that was presented to committee and not approved for first reading. So you are free to cross it out. It is not relevant for each policy. What is relevant is the second copy of each policy, which is clean. It is the most updated version, and it is what we will be voting on tonight. I will say that there were no further amendments made between first reading and second reading for any of these policies, but I'm happy to continue discussion if somebody has an amendment to bring tonight. I will ask for motions on these after public comment.
Negotiations, we have two contracts that we'll vote on after public comment.
Oh, and we actually need a voice vote on my minutes.
Oh,
policy
yeah.
minutes.
Oh, yeah. I will take a motion to approve the policy minutes.
We've moved and seconded
Seconded,
already,
you
actually,
said.
yeah, so that we could discuss. I seconded.
Okay.
Yeah, no worries.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay.
You done?
Yep, I will cover for Michelle. So the first one we have on page 102 is the CEAA, which are the instructional educational assistants. The agreement we're bringing to you is a 3-year contract. Year one has a new wage scale with an added step 12. And then in year 2 and year 3 are 3% increases to the scale. Some other things that we've changed in the agreement, they have moved in all the members effective July 1 to the new 2.0 plan, both orange and yellow. We did offer a one-time retirement incentive for those with 20 consecutive years of service and retire this June 30th. And we believe that there is about 18 eligible people that's been offered to. We addressed some delayed opening language, death benefit language to match the new RSA. We did some various cleanup of language throughout the contract and addressed some optional professional development. And we removed an outdated retention bonus from the last round of negotiations, cleaned up the grievance language, sick bank language, and removed fair share language. Also eliminated the non-instructional track because there was nobody on that track, and cleaned up the retiree language. Also added cleaned up the recognition clause by adding the LNA to the recognition clause. But let's they have ratified, and we're looking for your approval.
The
Yeah.
estimated cost?
Yeah, a little over $1 million over 3 years.
And how many
So-
people are in this?
There is 188 positions and 161 that are currently filling it as of today. One thing too is the change in healthcare. Healthcare going to 2.0 was a 9% increase versus if we left everybody where they were, that was a 13% increase. So about $37,000 less than what it would have been the district cost by moving to the 2.0 plan.
And the tutors?
Yep, and the tutors, that is a 1 year only. I don't think I even have to. And they are also moving to the 2.0 plan as well. And that is the only thing we've done in this agreement. They had some.
A 3% a wage increase as well, right?
Yeah, the wage increase is 3%, and they moved all the members to we added the orange plan and moved everybody to the 2.0 plan, so, okay.
And the cost?
I don't have that with me at the moment. I'll see if I can find it. I didn't put this together, sorry, not this one.
Yeah, I know. We will vote on that after public comment. If you happen to have it by then, that would be
Yep.
great. I know we've discussed it, but it'd be good to have. Capital facilities, I will take a motion to approve the minutes of April 23rd.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Hastings, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Robinson, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And I will turn it over to Mr. Richards.
Okay, so the Capital Facilities Committee met on April 23rd, as we have mentioned. We had a couple agenda items on this. Just like Ms. Hastings, I'm going to flip these and move them out of order. First, we discussed, gave an update on Memorial Field, a little more detailed, but pretty much exactly the same thing as Ms. Higgins and I gave today. The one thing I'll add that is that if we, as we move through this committee, not this particular committee, but the Memorial Field Committee, if we bring that to the board, the next phase and it would be design and permitting for Memorial Field, which is projected to be a $1.5 million project, which would be, detailed designs, and at this time is expected to be split 50-50 with the city. The other thing we discussed at that time was with regards to the middle school, and the discussion was about a owner's project manager. As I'm sure all of you are aware, we already have an owner's project manager in Mr. Cashman, who has been shepherding this through, and it's certainly not a position that he is unfamiliar with, since he is a rather experienced owner project manager. But it was suggested, and we voted on suggesting to the full board that the administration be directed to put together an RFP for an owner project manager, not to imply in any way that Mr. Cashman hasn't done a great job, but to rather put that together to look at an outside owner project manager for the project. That will, I assume, come up after public comment.
Yes, we can vote on the recommendation for an RFP. And I just to add, I think, from the discussion, it was, we do have one in the plan. Mr. Cashman has served in that role before, but that we would, we have heard from the community as well, and so we thought it would make sense to get a sense of prices and what that would potentially add to cost and services as well.
And then the final thing was, we got a more detailed update on the HVAC project at the high school, a little more detailed than what we heard today, but very much the same information. So, and with that, that's it.
Great, thank you. I will open up our 30 minutes of public comment. Based on here, we'll limit time to, ask people to limit their time to 5 minutes or fewer. If you would like to speak, please sign in and identify yourself. Is there anyone who would like to speak?
Good evening, Steve Miklevitz, Ward 10. In a recent Concord Monitor article, Mayor Champlin asserted that our city is not what it used to be 40 years ago. He said that there is a growing divide between the citizens and their elected officials. He also suggested that one solution to closing that divide is to provide increased opportunities for public dialogue between citizens and their elected officials. So I once again testify before the board, as I and others have done on several occasions over the last couple of years, requesting a civil public dialogue between you as the Concord Board of Education and we as the Concord citizens and taxpayers over the important issue of the proposed middle school construction/renovation. We could not agree more with the mayor. With no vote available to us on large, impactful financial issues such as building construction costs and bonding, and subject as we are to your judgments and decisions in these matters, the very least we deserve as taxpayers is the opportunity for an open, civil, candid dialogue with our elected Board of Education. Perhaps in the very near future, we can agree to a format for such a dialogue. It would go far toward enhancing the accountability, trust, and transparency, which will contribute to closing the divide above referenced. Together, let's decide when, where, and how this will take place, and we, as the tax-paying citizens, will show up. Thank you.
Thank you. I am sorry, Mr. Bob Wolf had signed in to speak.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I hadn't gotten the list before you came up.
Than he did.
So you're.
We're pals, it's okay.
Yep. Be next, and then if anyone else after that.
Glad to see the microphone is working so well. Hi, my name is Bob Wolf. Some of you know me. I've been involved with the Concord school system actively for 49 years in one way or another. Let's see. Good evening. I'm here tonight to compliment you on your support for the ongoing 21C school program, where kids that need a boost academically spend an extra 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, in that revolutionary program. If you do the math, that's an extra 2,500 hours a year beyond the normal school day for each kid. It's fantastic. And speaking of math, on a similar vein, I'm hoping you will consider some innovative and imaginative program like 21C to boost the 20% proficient and 80% not proficient math scores in the high school sophomore class, so that Concord High is not graduating those crisis percentages at Memorial Field 2 years from now in June 2027. For inspiration, you can research what happened in Compton, California, a city of 94,000 who raised their below 20% math test scores 2 grade levels in 2 years by hiring 250 full-time tutors to be in the classroom with the teachers and kids. It became a national story. Audacious? You bet. Can you, the current school board, establish an innovative program to attack this current problem as Compton, California did and previous school boards did in Concord when they established the 21C program? Only you can answer that. Here's some more math. If Concord could hire 100 tutors at $25 an hour, times 7 hours per day, times 180 school days, that would be $3.1 million. The same amount of money just promised to HMFH Architects to draw the plans for the $164 million school that there is no state aid for, and total cost for which, including 30-year bonding, is about $360 million. Which investment do you think benefits students more? Food for thought. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to testify?
Hi, my name is Patricia DeAngelis. There was an article in the Concord Monitor today about Brunlet, and it went through basically, where we were in 2023 when we were going to broken ground, and against overwhelming public testimony against relocating there, the board decided to go forward with it anyway. This is the article. Concord concerned citizens followed existing rules and procedures to propose amendments to the school charter to be voted on election day. The voters prevailed emphatically, and the amendments were passed by the 67% of the voters. The board then spent money on lawyers to prevent voters from having their say. His words. Now, 2025, the board presses forward in spending $164 million on the middle school at Runlet with little or no state aid. And even though there is widespread opposition to this sort of exorbitant price tag. In another article, at another time, it was suggested that instead of giving the architect carte blanche on the design and end up with a price, why doesn't the board come up with a cost ceiling and have the architect design a building within that amount? That seems very logical to me. But that doesn't mean a meager reduction from the $164 million, but a substantial one. In yet another Monitor article earlier on, there were examples of similar-sized schools built in other states with similar requirements for way less money. As I recall, one of them was in Maine, one had a cost of not much more than $100 million, and one had 3 schools built totaling under $164 million. I would like to see the board make a serious reduction of the current amount for a cost ceiling. That may be achieved by keeping some of the newer parts of Runlet intact or updated and building new where older areas are. What upsets me most is that you don't, as a board, seem to be bothered by the ramifications for the middle and lower middle classes of Concord citizens who are a huge portion of our city. We as families always have to weigh priorities regarding our finances. Concord citizens are not living in a bubble either. We're facing a capital improvement budget that is 4 times higher than last year's CI budget, which was the highest in several years. There is huge uncertainty as to how federal decisions will be affecting the cost of necessary goods that we have to buy. And as the school board isn't responsible for those other 2 things, Concord taxpayers are affected by all of these things. We just want the school board to do your part. Be responsible for putting forth a reasonable, realistic cost ceiling for the architect so we can get on with the Runlet project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to testify? Seeing none, I'm going to close public hearing. Thank you. We are going to proceed to, bless you. We are going to proceed to vote. The first item is on the Changemakers policy. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move that we vote to approve approve and adopt the Changemakers SEL program for the 25-26 school year.
I second that.
Moved by Ms. Hastings, second by Ms. Sadowski. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Second is policy, motion passes. Policy 528.
I move to approve on second reading the repeal and replace of policy 528 as recommended by the policy committee.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Meeker, seconded by Ms. Boucher. Discussion. I have something, and I'm sorry I didn't bring this to you earlier. I have a little bit of PTSD with this policy because it was the first thing I dealt with when I was on the board. But on Roman numeral 2, section 5.
Can you name a page?
Oh, sorry, page 80. State law specifically allows for judicial bypass process that would allow a young woman to not inform her parents and to not do the parental notification law. And I feel like that short circuits by saying whether it's based on, I believe parents should be involved, but I also believe there's state law that says there are cases where it shouldn't be, and if a young woman decides to seek a judicial bypass, then I believe we should not be notifying parents until that process is completed. That if someone takes that option, they should be allowed to have that option as allowed under state law.
Where exactly is this on page 80?
It's not on page 8. Yeah, I'm looking at section 5.
Section 5, she's adding.
Number 5, where it says that we will notify unless an employee believes that disclosure would result in abuse, abandonment, or neglect.
So we just simply need to add in, or if a judicial
Or-
bypass
or-
process is undergoing.
Underway. Yeah, that's what I would like to add.
So, I apologize. Are
Yep.
you saying that what is currently written in number 5 is inconsistent with state law?
Well, what I'm saying is it doesn't take into account that state law allows for just for
Judicial bypass.
another option than going to the parents. It says now it is only in the case of someone seeking an abortion, not if they're carrying out the pregnancy, but I would say that if they're seeking that option for whatever reason, that is a legitimate, then that.
Is there any reason to believe that an employee would be informed of the judicial process that an individual student may be undergoing?
Well, certainly I think the student should have the option of saying, please don't tell my parents, I'm going to seek a judicial bypass.
So in here where it says unless such employee reasonably believes and a reasonably prudent person would believe that such disclosure would result in abuse, whatever, I would imagine in that conversation, the judicial bypass piece would come up. Like, if we have this in here, to me, that indicates a conversation has to take place. So I feel like that
I would hope a
potentially
conversation would take place.
cover it.
You're asking for explicit language, it says judicial bypass.
Or if the student is seeking a judicial bypass. And then if this judicial bypass doesn't happen, then if the judge doesn't grant it, then obviously you can. Listen, I have a lot of problems with this policy, but those are problems with state law, which is that we inform on young women who have had sex, but because there are physical ramifications of that, and we don't inform on young men unless we happen to find out that they are the ones. So, I have, but those are state law problems that I can't fix. But I do think that there is a process that says, there's something, another thing to do.
So what I would suggest is because.
And I'm sorry I'm bringing this up late.
Right, so because it is connected to an RSA that nobody here can read to verify what you're saying just yet, I understand that you have an amendment. I don't think it's prudent for us to vote on that amendment tonight. So I would probably recommend that this be sent back to committee or brought back to the next general meeting with a formal proposal with RSA attached.
So has a motion been made?
So a motion has been made.
So I'd like to move that we table this.
I will second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
It's tabled. Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay, let's get,
No, and.
let's answer the
knowledge is
question.
power, right?
Let's answer any member's question.
Next, we have 528.1.
I move to approve new policy 528.1 on second reading as recommended by the policy committee.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Meeker, second by Ms. Robinson. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 28.2.
I move to approve new policy 528.2 on second reading as recommended by the policy committee.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Meeker, second by Ms. Robinson. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Policy 303.
I move to approve new policy 303 on second reading as recommended by the policy committee.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Meeker, second by Ms. Boucher. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the CEAA contract. I will move approval of the CEAA contract.
So moved. Or seconded.
Moved by Ms. Walsh, seconded by Ms. Hastings. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The tutor contract, Mr. Dunn, were you able to?
Yeah, so the health will cost $146,891.70 versus $162,418. So that was about $15,000 less because we moved to 2.0. And then on the general fund only, because we haven't been issued our entitlement, and that is not in the budget yet, and we don't issue those until August, these contracts. The total wage of FICA and wage is $411,177.80.
That's not the increase, though.
No, I don't have the
That's just
increase.
total.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I will move the approval of a one-year contract for the tutors.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Walsh, second by Ms. Robinson. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And finally, the recommendation to issue an RFP for an owner's project manager.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Mr. Richards. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Boucher. Discussion.
Kara, go first. Kara goes
Ms.
first.
Meeker.
I apologize that I was not up on the discussion that happened around this, but my first question is, do we need to do this?
No. Do we legally need to hire someone separately?
Do we legally need to issue an RFP to put it out to bid?
Well, it wasn't the discussion that we've met the criteria.
Yes.
So we don't need someone, we have someone already.
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. So I guess based on that, I would just like to hear maybe a little bit more on why the recommendation is before us.
So this recommendation is made because one, the public has asked repeatedly for it. I would like to, I think of putting out an RFP and seeing the responses and evaluating those responses at that time, whether or not we choose to go forward with an outside project manager or not will provide more information for us to make a better decision.
Ms. Robinson.
My concern is that a lot of the community members that requested that we do this don't take into account the administrative costs of putting out an RFP and the staff costs that comes with that, as well as the fact that hiring an additional person will cost considerable dollars when we already have that person on staff. So we have folks asking us for this and out of the other side of their mouth asking us to pretty please save as many dollars as possible. So I would argue it's an unnecessary waste of dollars that could be spent somewhere else.
I think that issuing an RFP definitely takes staff time, and I appreciate, and that is an expense that often doesn't get accounted. I think it is minimal in the scope of this project. You know, I agree, I think we have someone highly competent to do this. I do think that given the questions and the sort of varying cost estimates of what this person or persons would cost and then bring to the project, I think it's worth having that specific data and making the decision based on that. And, you know, given where we are, we have time to do this and get these responses back. And, you know, if, you know, we had heard an estimate, I think at one point of 1% of project, maybe that's low, you know, but a percentage of project costs that we all went. But I think given that it continues to come up, we should get the numbers and then we can have a reasoned discussion of whether that's an investment worth making. That's where I came down, that having the information.
Makes perfect sense,
is-
Yes.
the way you explain it, yeah.
Issuing an RFP does not obligate us to award it.
Oh, for sure,
Outside.
I know this, yeah.
And I do think, as you have, Mr. Richards repeated, that there was some implication that we didn't have, that we were overlooking this part of the law and that we did not have, and we have had, and I've always had Mr. Cashman to serve in that role. We're lucky because we're a bigger district, we have a lot more expertise in-house, and the state law allows us to use our in-house expertise, and he has done this for us in the past. And I personally suspect he'll still be the better value. But I think having that out there is a good, you know, process to go through.
Okay, thank you.
And then somebody will say, why did you spend the money on an RFP?
Oh, you know it, you know it, yeah, you can't win.
Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Any abstentions? Motion carries. Ms. Aryn is with us tonight, who's
No,
gonna
I'm-
handle personnel.
I'm gonna do that. So I'm pleased to present the spring coach nominations. You'll find those on page 105, and that's Emma Di Baraccio, who's going to be the girls' JV lacrosse coach. I'm just gonna go through the list. Alex Collins, who will be the supplemental coach for spring track and field. You know why they have that with the numbers of students that are on these track teams. Terry Anderson is the girls' B lacrosse coach at Runlet. And Michael Komoric at Runlet for the girls lacrosse coach. And Patrick McDonald, Runlet middle school coach for boys lacrosse.
Boys B.
I move acceptance of the spring coach nominations as presented to the board.
Is there a second? Second. Moved by Ms. Robinson, seconded by Ms. Higgins. Is there discussion? Ms. Hastings?
I feel like I ask this question every year, but could you please explain to me the difference between how the girls lacrosse A coach is at step 1, group 11, and the boys group B is at step 2, group 11, but they're both new? How does that happen?
Well, I think that one has experience and the other
Is that what it
doesn't.
is?
Yeah.
They versus
coach
experience?
someplace
Yeah.
else or a different
Yeah.
sport, got a year.
Okay, yep, that's what I wanted to know. I just want to make
Just like
sure
teaching.
girls
Oh, no, it's
coaches
good.
are,
Yeah.
Good question.
thank you.
And the girls B coach is at step 3, so.
There you go, I like that. All right.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Great, I'm gonna go to page 107, which is your new teacher nominations, and I'm just gonna read the list. Taylor Hurto at Concord High School for school counselors. Heather Dressel at Runlet Middle School, special education teacher. Jessica Lapsey, I guess is the way you pronounce it, Runlet Middle School, special ed teacher. Tracy Cohen over at Krista McAuliffe as a classroom teacher. Dr. Henry is the new MML teacher over at Beaver Meadow. And Krista, remember we have more students at Krista, so we're splitting that up based on the numbers that John looked at. Ashley Lewis, a classroom teacher at Krista, and Jillian Sweet, also a classroom teacher at Krista. So what's your question about where they're placed? I can tell.
Well, let's get a motion. Motion to approve the new teachers.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Richards. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Boucher. Discussion. Question.
So go ahead.
Ms. Hastings?
Why didn't you ask? No.
What
No,
we did-
I,
We tried to stay pretty close to the M5. And we did, no question that the specials, like special ed, can be challenging a little bit in terms. The other one that I think probably raises is the ELL teacher. She's been a tutor with us for years. She's moved from that position to the full-time educator. Certainly has a wealth of background in Masters plus 30, which is what really drives that salary.
It's-
She's
I'm-
still a
yeah.
Masters step 5.
right. No, I don't have a problem with that. Just noticing one school seems to be getting an awful lot of new teachers.
Well, that it's gonna happen,
It is.
I think that's healthy for the organization when you have a lot of experienced people at your school. It's nice to have a complement of young teachers too, as they will become the more veteran teachers as time goes on. We had, I forget how many retirees that we had this year, a dozen, so it's gonna happen.
Do we have more teachers from Krista McAuliffe retire this year than other schools?
Yeah, we did.
That's an important thing to notice
Yeah.
too.
You'll get a chance to celebrate those folks.
Coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
And so the last group is on page 109, which is existing teacher nominations. Some of these folks were 1 year contracts, but we didn't know where they were gonna go. So we didn't nominate them when we went back, when we were, so technically, the 1 year is up. They didn't, they're kind of free agent, if you will. But they also, there were vacancies. So if you look at, for instance, Paige Bailey was on leave, and so we were waiting to hear from her. So that's why it's on this list. Ashley Conway was 1 year. She was filling a vacancy over there, and she's going to fill in for a retirement. Erica Markson, Beaver Meadow again, filling in for elementary vacancy. Sarah Miner was a 1 year, filling a vacancy, and she's filling a resignation position. Tricia Jowers will take a 1 year leave herself so that she can do a special education position, and so we will have to fill her position. And Marley Cutler is over at Millbrook, and she was on leave, and so her name comes up now.
All those in favor of the existing teacher nominee? Did we get a?
We don't have a motion.
A
No, we don't have a
motion,
motion.
can I have a motion to approve?
So
the-
moved.
Moved by Ms. Higgins, second by Ms. Sadowski. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
So you might ask me what the status of current openings are right now.
Yes.
We have really done a pretty good job. We have an art position, just received notice of a retirement at the high school. Of course, John's position, assistant superintendent. We have Trish Jowers, I just mentioned, as a 1 year classroom. It's only a 1 year contract. We have 2 part-time music folks, one over at the Broken Ground and the other at RMS. We'll be replacing the restorative justice coordinator at the middle school. We have a anticipated special education high school special ed teacher. We have 2 speech and language pass and 1 world language French, but that's it. That's it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11 positions. It's pretty good. We have 300 to 400 staff, so we've filled a lot of positions, and because of retirements and resignations.
And at this time of year, we traditionally give the superintendent authority to extend offers and hire in between board meetings and to retroactively notice
I
us.
still want to bring them to you. I think that's
Yeah.
important. that you
So
see
I
what-
will move that.
Second. What's the motion?
To allow the superintendent to continue to hire new staff during the summer and to retroactively notify the board.
Thank you.
Did we get a second?
Ms.
Second.
Sadowski.
Cool, okay, cool. I thought you were the
Second.
first.
Is there discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Monthly enrollment reports.
Just pretty steady right now. You can look at the numbers, but a couple of areas, I continue to keep an eye on Millbrook for the kindergarten going to first grade, because I've got 6 sections into 5 sections, so I'm watching those numbers. I just had a conversation today with Katie, still within your guidelines of the policy, and you can see we stuck that policy guidelines on this sheet. But I'm keeping an eye on that one, and also out at Beaver Meadow. Kindergarten, I'm just trying to figure out what's gonna happen there. So, those kindergartens going to first grade, again, I'm just watching those numbers. You have a contingency, so, I'm very sparingly overseeing that money so that, we can use it if we find an increase in the enrollment. But for the most part, it's pretty steady. Looks like it.
Calendar, and we can talk about retreat days then.
Oh, yeah. How are we doing that?
For the calendars.
The calendars, we're through, we've decided not to have this meeting on the 7th for negotiations. Following week, communication and policy, and then instructional committee that week. Yeah, go ahead.
So intended for tonight's agenda was a presentation introduction to our great school partners. Some persons were going to come and introduce themselves, talk about the goals of the 1.5-year contract. And that was not able to happen, and they're not able to come to the June board meeting. So we would like to start the first 20 minutes of the instructional committee with them zooming in and providing that explanation. So all are welcome who would like to attend, either live or by Zoom. I can get you the Zoom link if you need it. So that'll be the first 20 minutes of the instructional committee.
Nice. I think that's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. The following week, we'll have finance and city and community relations and executive committee. Please note the change in time, and usually it's on Monday, so Wednesday, the 21st for executive committee.
And the plan, well, now we'll be looking at the RFP, but it was also, last year, the board expressed interest in some different evaluation forms, so the executive committee will be looking at that on the 21st. So if you have an evaluation form that you just love, send it along, and we'll look at that as well.
I'll also give you the goals that you've set for yourself, and also the goals that I set for myself for the year. I know that's not what you want to do that night, but at least you have that data. The following week is we'll celebrate Memorial Day on the 26th, and on the 28th, the Distinguished Educator and the Retiree Ceremony, 6 o'clock over at ADS. That should be a really nice evening. We'll have some munchies and coffee and water and so forth, a cake, whatever, for that evening. So, the month of June, again, a busy month. Board meeting on the Monday. We have a capital facilities on Wednesday, and a building committee on Thursday. Following week, instructional committee, communication, and then we'll all celebrate our seniors, celebrate band, as we honor our graduates on Saturday, the 14th. Executive committee on the 16th. Last day of school for our students, unless we have a hurricane, will be the 17th.
How dare you?
I know.
Right.
I couldn't help it. And then we put in market days, because you all participate in that in some way, so the 3 days of market days. And then on the 25th of June, if I have this right, did you have a non-public meeting on?
So that would be for the board to do the superintendent evaluation.
Okay.
It would be that night.
Okay.
Superintendent, I'm not, maybe I missed it, but we do have a finance on the 16th after executive committee, correct?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. You're right. Did I miss that, Jim?
I don't know,
Thank you.
either you missed it or I missed it, but
Yeah, I could've.
we're clear.
Yeah, I
That's all counts.
I will not
I-
be here on the 9th for the instructional committee, so I'll just need someone else to chair that.
Okay.
I can do it for you.
Can we flip it with something else to make it workable?
I'm away that week, but
Can we flip with finance on the 16th? Would that
Sure.
work for you?
Mr. Dunn, is that?
That's fine.
Okay.
The bulk of what we'll do for you will
I mean,
be.
Hold on.
That's just yet another day I need to have, because executive and finance are back to back, so I only have to come in one day. And I appreciate that you have needs as well, but that just means I come in twice instead of once. So,
I mean, what are we gonna be talking about?
Well, Great Schools Park.
Oh, great schools. Yeah, but can we record?
Oh, no, that's
Oh, that's in
on
May.
May 14th.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So-
in May.
Okay.
if you want to chair it,
I can just chair it, yeah.
just keep it as it is.
Yeah.
I'll
You
make sure
okay
to
with
come
that?
too, so that
All right, so we'll keep it the way it is.
Compliment.
Last couple of days.
All right.
Yeah, I had to miss last one, I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll keep it the way it is,
Yep,
all
yep.
right? Then I did put in July, I know that, but, you know, things happen, so just, it's very rough. But the only thing is that, and it's on the agenda, you did ask for a mid-year retreat. And it wasn't gonna be like a formal one like you've done before, like an all-day session, but more of a couple of hours for you all to get together. And I'm hoping to have a rough, I think we'll probably have a fairly good picture of the strategic plan. Not for any other reason, but just to give to it. I'm not doing a presentation, because it's your meeting and your time to talk.
I think there were some things we wanted to set up, go over. I think a discussion about, starting a discussion among the board about what we're gonna be looking for in a superintendent. I think, we're supposed to get an open enrollment plan by then. Of course, by then, we will know whether the legislature has mandated open enrollment, so it might be a different discussion. I don't know that we're gonna figure that out tonight, but if folks could send me an email with your vacation schedules, then I could look at it and try and see if I can figure out when we might all be around at the same time. I know it's hard.
Yeah, that's kind.
I have a question related to this. Why do we have our board meeting on a Tuesday when it's not a holiday? Wouldn't it be on Monday the 7th, the first Monday of the month?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
why we set
I thought it was supposed to be the immediate following.
But,
Yeah,
It's
so
only
it
a
would be the
Tuesday
7th.
holiday,
It would
it's
be
not
the
a
7th.
holiday.
but
say
Monday
that,
the 30th isn't a holiday.
July.
June 30th is the
Yeah,
holiday.
we haven't gone over this as executive committee
Yeah,
yet, so it might be.
we just threw this out.
It
So
might
it's
be
only on
fine.
Tuesday if the same month had a holiday.
So it would be on the
Like
8th.
if July 4th was Monday and that was the first
No,
Monday.
it'd
of
be
the
on
it'd still be
the
on
Then
the
it would be
7th.
the
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Monday,
Right,
yes.
gotcha, thank you.
We were just
Otherwise,
trying to
it's
give you
just
a
the first
month
Monday.
to look at, to
Yep, yep.
begin to plan for.
failed.
Right.
At least I just wanted to see it.
Very critical observers
We're gonna
here on
argue
this.
about it.
Yeah, I
I tap
guess.
dance Tuesday, so I'm sorry. I can't bother.
All right, sorry.
No
Instead of us
tap
tapping.
Mr.
I only have to back up a little bit is for negotiations that we're not having this Wednesday.
yes.
We just have to figure out something because we still have transportation to settle. Our next meeting with them, I think, is not till May 21st.
Okay.
So.
So can we do it, at 5 o'clock on the 21st? Oh, you said it's on the 21st.
Yeah, we'll meet that morning, so I'll have an idea
Okay.
where things stand and you can
So if
decide.
we did it at 5 on the 21st, because 3 out of 4 of the members
for
will
me.
have to be here anyway?
It's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so what is that?
21st at 5
Okay,
PM
okay.
5 p.m. the
negotiation.
21st.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
All right. And my understanding is we do not need a non-public.
Not-
Is there any, does any member have any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion to adjourn by Ms. Meeker, second by Ms. Robinson. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
There you go, team. Look at us.
That was a big agenda.
You guys before 9.